Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful for You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In a twist that ripples through Los Angeles with the force of a runaway Malibu tide, the truth about Remy's shocking choice to save Luna Nozawa and fake her death unfolds like the most explosive secret the Forrester, Logan, Spencer, Finnegan, and Nozawa families have ever confronted, beginning on a storm-soaked night when Remy, who had long been dismissed as a peripheral figure hovering on the edges of these families' orbit, suddenly becomes the unlikely guardian of Luna's life and the orchestrator of an elaborate deception that leaves Deputy Chief Bradley Baker baffled, Lee Finnegan horrified, Poppy Nozawa detached and disturbingly calm, Finn paralyzed with guilt, Steffi Forrester rattled to her core, and the entire Malibu community scrambling for answers. Remy, who had spent years living quietly under the radar as a mechanic and surfer who often lingered around the Spencer Cliffside properties and Forrester Beach houses, had always harbored a secret connection to the Nozawa family, one he never dared reveal, not out of shame but out of fear that it would resurrect a past he had been actively burying for over a decade, a past tied to Poppy Nozawa, to the enigmatic circumstances of Luna's paternity, and to a dangerous syndicate in Tokyo that Remy had once been coerced into working for. A group that threatened to expose Poppy's darkest choices and Luna's status as an unintentional pawn in a decades-old feud that neither woman ever knew existed, the moment Luna ran. Panicked, broken, breathless, across the dunes of Malibu after Will Spencer devastated her by exposing the miscarriage she had tried to hide, Remy had been following from a distance, not out of malice but out of duty, because he had promised a dying friend in Japan, a man whose life had been destroyed by the syndicate, that he would protect the girl they had targeted long before she was even born. A girl they believed carried information someone had hidden in Poppy's medical files, information worth millions, information that could collapse the empire of a criminal mastermind who once used Remy as a courier. Remy saw Luna stumble into traffic, saw the headlights, saw the panic, saw the moment when her life would have ended right there if he hadn't lunged forward and yanked her out of the street in a split-second move so fast not even the officers chasing her understood what actually happened, and in that moment, with Luna unconscious in his arms and the sound of sirens closing in, Remy realized that the only way to keep her alive was to make the entire world believe she had died, because if the syndicate ever discovered she was still breathing, they would come for her. Finn, Steffi, Lee, Poppy, Hayes, Kelly, Will, Hope, Brooke, Ridge, and anyone even remotely connected to the Nozawa Finnegan Forrester web, so he took her to an off-grid medical bunker hidden deep beneath an abandoned Malibu winery, a location Sheila Carter herself once used years ago, ironically making Sheila the only person in Los Angeles who could potentially unravel Remy's plan, where he revived Luna, stabilized her, and told her the truth about why he had been shadowing her for weeks, a truth so overwhelming she could barely speak, that her mother Poppy had once stolen biological records from a Tokyo research facility during a desperate attempt to hide the identity of Luna's father, and those files had been encoded in such a way that Luna, unknowingly, had become the ultimate key to unlocking a secret account tied to an operation called the Hyacinth Ledger, a ledger containing decades of criminal transactions, blackmail evidence, and DNA-based encryption so valuable that the syndicate had been searching for Luna's biological markers for years. When Luna woke up and realized that Remy was not her enemy but the only person standing between her and a global criminal hunt, she panicked anew, believing she had ruined everything by running, by confessing to Will about the miscarriage, by spiraling into the very meltdown that the syndicate's agents had been waiting for to exploit. But Remy, with steady hands and a voice roughened by years of carrying guilt, assured her that none of this was her fault, that the miscarriage, the scandal, the violent chase, the police intervention, and the heartbreak that had unfolded over the last 48 hours were tragic consequences of secrets that should have been burned a long time ago. Meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, the ripple effect of Luna's supposed death cracked every family like shattering glass, with Finn breaking down and blaming himself for not protecting her, Steffi torn between her loyalty to her husband and her fury at Luna for endangering her family, Lee Finnegan reacting with simmering, tightly coiled rage at Poppy, demanding answers about why her sister seemed so mechanically detached from the death of her daughter, and Poppy herself spiraling quietly in private, revealing that she had always known Luna's biological father was not the man she claimed but someone far more dangerous, someone she had spent 2 decades running from. Will Spencer, devastated by guilt and unable to process the fact that his words may have driven Luna into fatal danger, confessed to Bill on the cliffside that he believed he had killed her without even touching her, prompting Bill Spencer to initiate his own investigation, suspecting immediately, more than anyone else, that something about Luna's disappearance did not add up, especially after Baker announced they could not locate a body, only shredded clothing and signs of a sudden extraction, sparking Bill's instincts as a man who once faked his own death to protect his family. As days passed and Luna remained hidden with Remy in the underground medical facility, slowly recovering physically but emotionally unraveling under the weight of the truth, Remy revealed the final, most shocking piece of the puzzle. He was the one who had been anonymously paying for Luna's private schooling in Japan, the one who sent Poppy money during their hardest years, the one who ensured Luna stayed off certain radars, and, most shocking of all, he was the half-brother of Luna's real father, a man named Daichi Koizumi, who had disappeared after stealing the Hyacinth ledger from the syndicate, leaving Luna as the only key left to unlock its contents. Meaning Remy had not only been protecting Luna but also honoring a bloodline obligation tied to a crime that was never hers to bear. Luna's devastation deepened when she realized that every chaotic moment she had lived through in Los Angeles, from the bedroom scandal with RJ to the growing fixation on Finn to the mounting emotional breakdowns, were not random spirals but the result of sedatives and emotional destabilizers slipped into her herbal supplements months ago by a syndicate agent posing as a wellness consultant at Forrester Creations, meaning Luna had been chemically manipulated into making self-destructive choices to fracture the Finnegan-Forrester alliance and isolate her for an easier extraction, and Remy's voice trembled as he explained that he discovered this too late, that he had hoped to confront the agent quietly, but the scandal with Will escalated everything at nuclear speed. As Luna processed this revelation, she realized that the only way to protect everyone she loved was to stay dead, but Remy, seeing the torment in her eyes, assuring her that she would not have to stay hidden forever, because he had a plan to expose the Hyacinth ledger and the syndicate's operations without putting Luna on the front line, though doing so would require help from someone who straddled the line between savior and threat, Sheila Carter, the one person alive who both understood how to survive powerful enemies and who owed Remy a life debt from an incident years ago when he smuggled her out of Tokyo after she crossed someone too powerful even for her. Luna gasped when she realized that Remy's plan involved pulling Sheila into the center of this mess, but Remy insisted Sheila was their best chance, because Sheila knew how to be invisible, how to fake deaths, how to dismantle criminal cells, how to weaponize chaos, and most importantly, how to protect those she considered hers, and whether Luna liked it or not. Sheila had slowly begun considering Luna part of her extended family through Finn. Meanwhile in Los Angeles, things escalated rapidly. Baker launched a task force to figure out why all forensic evidence suggested a staged disappearance. Finn secretly ordered a second independent analysis of the scene. Steffi tried to keep her family together while battling growing dread. Lee uncovered inconsistencies in Poppy's past and confronted her in a volcanic showdown that left Poppy sobbing and confessing that Daichi Koizumi, the man she once loved, had vanished under mysterious circumstances after stealing something priceless, something he hid inside Luna by modifying prenatal medical records, and Bill Spencer, sensing international implications, began coordinating with Justin Barber to track Remy's movements. As all these threads tightened, Remy realized time was running out and prepared Luna to make the biggest decision of her life, remain dead forever and disappear into a new identity, or reclaim her life in Los Angeles at the risk of igniting a war with a criminal organization capable of burning down everything she touches. Luna, heartbroken and hollow but slowly regaining her strength, told Remy she wanted to fight, not because she believed she was strong enough, but because she wanted her life back, wanted Finn to know the truth, wanted Steffi to stop living with fear, wanted Will to stop drowning in guilt, and wanted the world to stop believing she was a villain spiraling out of control. But Remy shook his head gently and told her that the world wasn't ready yet, that the truth was bigger than any of them, and that the only way forward was to finish the deception until they could strike, meaning Luna would have to watch her own family mourn her while she hid underground, waiting for the moment her resurrection would be the final blow against the syndicate. And so, the surprising reason Remy decided to save Luna and trick the world into believing she was dead was not just to protect her from the immediate danger of Malibu traffic, nor from the police chase, nor from Will's confession, nor even from Poppy's lies, but to protect her from an international criminal network that had been hunting her since birth, a network only Remy truly understood, a network that would stop at nothing to retrieve what Daichi Koizumi stole. And as Luna stared at the dim ceiling of the underground clinic, clutching the blanket around her trembling body, she whispered. The question that would define the next chapter of her life: when do I get to live again? And Remy, with haunted eyes and a voice carrying both promise and dread, replied, when the world believes you're gone long enough for us to bring you back stronger than ever. Just as the shadows of the underground medical bunker pressed in around Luna and Remy, each flicker of dim light echoing across the concrete walls like a pulse counting down toward inevitability, a sound from above, a barely perceptible scrape of metal and the faint whisper of movement, alerted Remy instantly, causing him to press a hand to Luna's shaking shoulder and whisper urgently that someone was coming, and before Luna could even gasp in fear, the steel hatch above them slowly creaked open, revealing a silhouette that, even in the half-light, sent a chill down Luna's spine and made her clutch the blanket tighter around her trembling frame, because it was Sheila Carter, alive, formidable, and utterly unreadable, her eyes scanning the dim room with the calculating precision of a predator and the protective instinct of someone who had spent decades surviving in worlds where betrayal and death were only steps away. And Sheila's voice, low and deceptively calm, broke the tension as she said, "So, this is where you've been hiding, little one," and Luna froze, recognizing immediately that the woman standing before her was simultaneously a threat and a potential savior. The kind of person whose presence alone could turn the course of the next 24 hours into a high-stakes chess match with human lives as pawns. And Remy, stepping slightly in front of Luna, felt the weight of years of secrecy and danger press down on him. As he explained in hurried, clipped sentences how Luna had nearly been killed in Malibu, how the syndicate was hunting her, how Will's confession about the miscarriage had inadvertently put her at even greater risk, and how faking her death was the only way to keep her alive while they planned their next move, and Sheila, tilting her head and letting a faint smirk touch her lips, responded with a mixture of amusement and cold calculation, noting that it sounded exactly like the kind of drama that had followed her own life for decades, that Remy had pulled off a stunt worthy of the boldest moves she herself had made, but that it also carried massive risk, because if anyone in Los Angeles found out Luna was still alive, it would ignite every family feud, law enforcement chase, and syndicate vendetta in the city simultaneously, meaning Remy's well-intentioned deception was both brilliant and reckless. And as Luna looked from Remy to Sheila, her mind reeling, her heart hammering, she realized that the woman who had once been the ultimate wildcard in the Spencer-Forrester saga could now be the key to not only protecting her but also navigating the treacherous waters that now included her own mother Poppy, Finn, Steffi, Lee, and the looming threat of Daichi Koizumi's syndicate. And Sheila, sensing Luna's fear and hesitation, leaned closer, her voice dropping even lower, almost conspiratorial, and said, "You're alive. And you should never forget it. However, simply surviving is not enough. You're going to have to fight, and you're going to have to trust me, and I don't give that advice lightly." And Luna, despite her fear, felt a strange, unexpected surge of relief, because Sheila's presence meant that someone in the world understood how to survive the impossible, someone who had walked through murder, deception, betrayal, and survived to tell the tale, someone who could guide Luna through the fallout that Remy's plan had set into motion. And Remy, feeling both relief and renewed tension, realized that introducing Sheila into the equation would complicate everything. The Finnegan family, Steffi, Bill, Will, Lee, Poppy, and the entire city would eventually collide with this secret in a way that could ignite chaos unlike anything Malibu had ever seen. But at the same time, Sheila's expertise in navigating deadly situations, faking deaths, and manipulating the untrustworthy meant she was exactly what Luna needed if she had any hope of emerging from this alive and whole. And as Sheila stepped fully into the bunker, her sharp eyes scanning Luna's pale, trembling form, she noticed the evidence of trauma, the bruises from the fall into traffic, the stress in her posture, the exhaustion in her eyes, and for the first time in years, Sheila allowed a flicker of maternal instinct to surface, a desire to protect someone innocent from the darkness she herself had lived through. And Luna, sensing it, allowed herself a moment of trust, albeit hesitant and shaky, while Remy quietly explained how the syndicate had once tried to capture Luna in Japan, how her mother Poppy had lied to her for years about her father, about Daichi Koizumi, and how every choice Luna had made in the past week, the confession to Will, the panic on the dunes, the near-death experience, was part of a larger, deadly game that neither the Finnegan family nor the Spencer-Forrester network could fully comprehend, and Sheila, listening intently, nodded once, sharply, and said, "Then it's settled. We play the game better than they ever could," and in that moment, Luna, though still terrified, felt the first glimmer of empowerment, because for the first time she wasn't hiding from the world alone. She had Remy, she had Sheila, and she had a plan, a dangerous, risky plan that would involve tricking law enforcement, deceiving family members, manipulating syndicate trackers, and ultimately confronting her own fears and the truth about her father, Daichi, whose shadow loomed over every decision, every revelation, every secret kept from her. And as the hours stretched into the night, Sheila and Remy worked side by side to prepare Luna for what would come, discussing routes, false identities, the possibility of using her supposed death as leverage to extract secrets from enemies, and Luna, hearing Sheila's confident instructions and seeing the determination in Remy's eyes, realized that the deception of her death was only the beginning of a much larger story, a story that would test every relationship she had in Los Angeles, from Finn, who would undoubtedly descend into grief and despair if he ever learned the truth, to Steffi, who would be furious at being kept in the dark, to Lee, who would explode upon discovering both Poppy's lies and Luna's survival, and even Will, who carried guilt heavier than any person should bear, and Sheila, sensing Luna's overwhelm, reached out and took her hand, firm and unyielding, saying, "You're not alone. Not now. Not ever. You survive, battle, and come back on your own terms. And if anyone tries to stop us," she paused, eyes hardening into knives of resolve, "they will regret it," and Luna, gripping Sheila's hand with a mix of fear and newfound courage, realized that survival had become a strategic operation, one where she was both pawn and queen, and Remy, silently observing this exchange, felt a surge of both pride and dread, knowing that involving Sheila meant escalating the stakes exponentially, because once Sheila was in the mix, no one could predict the chain reaction across Malibu and beyond. Baker would intensify his investigations, Lee would push every legal and moral lever she had, Steffi would confront Remy and Sheila in equal measure, Finn would unravel emotionally and desperately search for answers, Poppy's carefully constructed lies would collapse, and the syndicate, sensing any hint of Luna's life, would mobilize in ways that could endanger every human being connected to her. Yet despite all of this, Remy knew the risk was necessary, because Luna's life, and the opportunity to finally unravel the mysteries of the Hyacinth Ledger, depended on keeping her alive, hidden, and prepared to emerge when the time was right, and Sheila, surveying Luna with a sharp, appraising gaze, concluded with a voice that brooked no argument, "You survive now. The world believes you are dead. We have control over the clock. When the time comes, you strike, and everyone will learn that Luna Nozawa is not a victim, she is a force." And as the three of them sat in the dimly lit bunker, planning, strategizing, and silently acknowledging the monumental consequences of their choices, Luna felt the first real spark of hope in days, tempered by fear, yet undeniable, because for the first time, she understood the depth of Remy's sacrifice, the power of Sheila's cunning, and the fact that even in the darkest, most convoluted chapters of Malibu's tangled drama, survival, and triumph, was possible, if she could only navigate the treacherous waters of deception, family loyalties, criminal threats, and her own fragile heart. And as the night stretched on, with shadows dancing across the walls, Remy, Luna, and Sheila began weaving a plan so intricate, so audacious, and so fraught with danger that even the combined forces of law enforcement, the Spencer-Forrester clan, and the syndicate could not foresee it, and in that precarious silence, punctuated only by the distant sound of crashing waves, the three understood one unspoken truth: Malibu would never be the same again once Luna Nozawa returned from the dead. Meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, Finn's world was unraveling faster than he could process, the aftermath of Luna's supposed death leaving him hollow, guilt-stricken, and desperate, replaying over and over in his mind every interaction he had had with Luna, every warning he had ignored, every tender moment that now seemed like it had been stolen from him by fate itself. And as he paced the hallways of Forrester Creations late into the night, he could feel Steffi's concerned eyes on him, her hand reaching for his arm, trying to anchor him in reality while he drifted further into a fog of despair. remembering the way Luna had smiled, the way she had clutched his hand during moments of fear, and the way she had whispered apologies that cut deeper than any blade because he had been powerless to save her from the chaos that erupted after Will's devastating revelation. And every time his phone vibrated with messages from Bill, Lee, or even Will himself, Finn's chest tightened, because he knew that none of them truly understood the depth of the spiral that had overtaken Luna, the trauma she carried, and the life-threatening danger that had followed her like a shadow since birth due to secrets he was only beginning to piece together about Daichi Koizumi, the Hyacinth Ledger, and the Syndicate that had been hunting her across continents. And as he sat alone in his office, replaying the events from the beach, the traffic, the sirens, and Luna's panicked sprint across the dunes, something in Finn snapped, a subtle clue he had overlooked, a discrepancy in the police report, the way Deputy Chief Baker described the body being gone, the way Will's panic seemed oddly rehearsed, the absence of photographic confirmation, and suddenly, a terrifying, electrifying thought struck him: Luna might still be alive, and everything he thought he knew about the tragedy was wrong. And the realization hit him like a tidal wave, leaving him breathless, shaking, and frantic, and he immediately began retracing every detail, calling everyone who might know, scanning hospital records, and digging into Poppy's past, her evasive behavior, and the cryptic messages she had sent him in the past weeks. And the more he probed, the more evidence accumulated, each piece a shard of truth cutting through the fog of grief, and it pointed to only one horrifying, exhilarating conclusion: Luna had survived, but someone was hiding her, manipulating the narrative, and orchestrating an elaborate deception that had fooled the police, the Spencer family, and even him, the one person she trusted most. And his mind raced with questions, panic, and fury, because the realization that Luna was alive meant she was in immediate danger. She had been in danger from the moment she ran across those dunes, and every second she remained hidden was a second that her enemies, both known and unknown, could strike. And in that moment, Finn's instincts kicked in, the same instincts that had saved countless patients in critical conditions, and he began plotting a desperate search, calling Baker directly, demanding access to surveillance, triangulating Luna's last known movements, and secretly reaching out to Remy, whose name had inexplicably surfaced in his investigation, though he had no idea yet that Remy was her protector, not her captor. And while Finn's panic escalated,